Hey everybody, welcome to Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I'm so blessed and honored to be coming to you live from Norfolk, Nebraska, here at Daycos HQ with my good friends, Brandon Day and Tammy Day here. How y'all doing today?
We're doing great.
That's a lot of days.
That's a lot of days.
Okay.
It's a good day here.
It's a good day at Daycos. Is that a thing? Y'all do that around here? A good day at Daycos?
Not really. We've heard them all.
Oh, you've heard them all.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, I digress. Hey, get in the comments. Let us know who you are, where you are. Check in. I am in beautiful Norfolk, Nebraska, spelled Norfolk, pronounced Norfolk. Is there a giant, rumor has it there's a giant fork in the middle of town. How are we doing on that?
The fork is still in process.
The fork's in process. The fork's in the mail.
We're working on the world's largest fork because that's what we do here in Norfolk, Nebraska.
No, we love it. 2 hours north of Omaha. This is great. I love being in person with y'all. I've had the pleasure of spending the entire day here and kind of getting to meet the staff and seeing kind of the special sauce and the magic that goes into Daycos. And I'm not even kidding when I say y'all have created one of the most impressive companies I have seen in the relocation space. You should be immensely proud. I want to get into how you've done that, why you've done that, what the purpose is behind that. I think there's a lot of lessons that we all can learn as leaders in business, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about it.
Looking forward to the conversation.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, get in the comments. Let's see who's checking in with us. We got Christian Terneddin says there's an earthquake right now. We've got a jolt to make sure our Californians get their money's worth. Wow, Christian, where is that? I hope everyone's safe out there. Sandra Clary checking in. Ben, Brandon, Billing, Bikes, and B Companies. B for the win. Yeah, we're going to be talking about B Companies. Real quick, Brandon, let's just tease it real quick. What is a B Company?
Well, it's not to correct you early on, Ben, but it's actually B Corp.
Okay.
So B Corp is an accreditation.
That's how it's going to go. All right.
It's going to be like, hold you accountable. B Corp's an accreditation process for companies that are about more than making money, about doing business with purpose. And Daycos is proud to be one of the few B Corps in Nebraska. And we've been a B Corp for about 6 or 7 years now. We redo the accreditation every few years. And it's just a signal that of the way we do business, and that we do business in a manner that is about more than making money for the owners.
Why would you do that?
Sometimes I ask myself that very same question.
It seems counterintuitive, though. Business is about making money. It's a group of people that come together for a common financial good. Why make it complicated?
Well, why make it complicated? It's a good question. Why do it? First of all, it's not a choice between either making money and doing good. We believe that if you do it in the right way and you look at a long-term horizon, not a short-term horizon, doing good is actually good for the bottom line. It's not hurting our profitability. It is building our profitability and our business for the long term. We think it's a great way to do business. It's a lot more fun. It's a lot more rewarding. It is more complicated. It is more difficult. First of all, it's hard to kind of measure how much good you're doing. Like, if you're interested in making money, it's easy to look at your financials and say whether you're successful or not. If you're interested in doing good, it's a little harder to judge. Are we doing the right amount of good? Are we doing it in the right way? But, just because something is easy doesn't mean it's worthwhile. So we like the way we run the business. It keeps me motivated to show up every day and try to figure out how to grow the business. And I think it builds a really nice culture and work atmosphere for the people at Daycos, which is really important to us.
Yeah, and I see it when I talk to your folks. I was in there asking everybody, what's your favorite part of working here? Why do you work here? And man, the answers were pretty interesting, Brandon. Honestly, people said things like, some people said like the flexibility. Another person said that they really enjoy being able to give back to their community, and they felt a sense of purpose in that. And then one that I really liked, because y'all do have some phenomenal tenure. I mean, everybody's been there like 6 years, 7 years, 8, 13, 18. There's 2 34s.
2 34s, yeah.
2 34s. Sense some tension and some rivalry there.
They started on the same
minute. Like, well,
they started on the same day.
I came in at 8:15 in the morning. What time did you get?
That was a good hiring day for Daycos.
Epic,
Right.
Hall of Fame class. But one person I actually enjoyed her answer. She said that she feels like she can be an expert in her field, and she had like what I mean, my words, not hers, but like a lot of self-actualization in her work because she felt really smart about what she did, and she was able to kind of become a strategic partner for her clients. So I kind of like that one too, as you search for purpose in your work.
We have a ton of people who have a deep knowledge of expertise, which as a service-based business, that's what we sell, right? We sell the knowledge and skills of our people. And we have some people that know a tremendous amount about things that are very difficult to know a tremendous amount, and that knowledge and expertise and the way they can bring that up and use that to help our clients is impressive to watch and amazing. And even someone who's only been here 28, 29 years, I don't know exactly where I am as an adult.
So you're not even hitting that 34. I mean, some people out there have been there longer than you.
Well, yes, technically. So the business started 46 years ago. And it was started in the basement of my parents' home in Alexandria, Virginia. And it was called John Day and Associates then, and I was one of the associates. I was 6 years old at the time, so I don't count that towards my work anniversary time. But I worked from when I was 6 till I was about 10 years old. Every day I'd come home from school, and we'd go down.
What did you do at 6 years old? Because I got a 6-year-old. Let me know.
Well, I'll tell you, it was a lean start for the company, and so it was all hands on deck. And my father would travel. We were doing post-audit on-site at moving companies.
Okay.
He would travel 11 months out of the year, review files on-site. Whatever he'd find, he would send back. My mother would type up the invoices. My sister, who was older, made the copies of the backup documentation, and then I was the mail boy. And I would mail the invoices and the copies of the backup off to DFAS for our customers to get paid. Defense, finance, accounting services.
Got it. Okay. Super interesting. I want to talk about that, the early days, and then I want to get into all of it. I also want to let you know out there, get in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts on a B corporation, on if doing good is good for business. Have you found that in what you do? I know we have a lot of really big-hearted, giving people out there in Love and Relo world. So let me know if your company ascribes to this and how you give back. I think that Daycos is in a cool position to actually kind of set the tone maybe and be a leader in this area. And I want to talk to Tammy a little bit about that as well. So let's check in with people getting in here. Scott Canary, hello from Daycos East in Pittsburgh. What's up, Scott? Andrea Liebengood, hello from Daycos. What's up, Andrea? This is cool.
Productivity is ground to a halt at Daycos.
Right.
Well, it's a good thing you're efficient otherwise.
Right.
Very cool. Yes, we had a late start. Sorry, y'all. Punctuality is not a strong suit. Janet Turner, looking forward to hearing about Daycos. Has to talk about today. Yeah, Janet, get in there. Y'all have a lot of customers in this business.
We do.
I don't think people understand, like in the military world, I say Daycos is like on the Mount Rushmore of service providers. There's only a few folks out there that have the ubiquity and the trust level and everything in the business that Daycos enjoys. But on the corporate relocation side, on the consumer side, and some of the other aspects of moving and relocation, some folks may not know, but can you give me an idea of the size of the operation that you run and how much business y'all do? Are we allowed to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So yeah, we represent a large swath of the DoD authorized movers.
How many moves a year are you doing through here?
We're probably doing in the neighborhood of 200,000 moves a year. We view it as invoices because we're a billing firm.
Sure.
So we're doing about 400,000 invoices a year.
Wow.
About $1.6 billion of revenue is generated on invoices from small little Norfolk, Nebraska on behalf of our customers. We have about 60 employees, most of whom are located here. We have a few remote, like Scott, out there in Pittsburgh, but most of them are here in Norfolk. And we generate, it's obviously during peak season, we're generating literally, over 1,000 invoices a day on average. Every day we turn everything around in 24 hours. So, when you're here in July and August, it can be a stressful operation.
What does that mean? You say you turn it around in 24 hours?
So basically the service is from the time that we receive the documents that we need to generate the invoice and submit it and the data. Within 24 hours, it will have been billed, checked, and sent off to the Department of Defense for payment. So we do that on a 24-hour turnaround, day after day. Anything, we guarantee that if we don't get it out in 24 hours, then you don't pay for the invoice.
You're like Domino's Pizza.
We're like Domino's Pizza. And on average, we may have in the summer, we may be doing 5, 6, 7,000 invoices, and we may have less than 5 that we don't hit that 24-hour mark for something else, but everything else pretty much gets there on a day in and day out basis.
Wow. And Tammy, real quick, and get in the comments, everybody. Let us know what you're thinking about all this. We're going to take questions as well, so get them in there. But Tammy, talk about your role a little bit.
Yeah, I always say I have the best job here, but my official job title that I made up is Chief Purpose Officer. But what I do is try to figure out, how do we do business with purpose? What does that mean? And how do we get our employees actively engaged in that process on a regular basis? And so I spend a lot of time thinking about, what does it mean to invest in people? What does it mean to invest in the community? How do we kind of live out this do good, be good philosophy that is so core to who we are and how we work.
Wow. And one of the cool things also about Daycos that I've learned is, and get in the comments, y'all, because this is kind of mind-blowing to me, is you don't seem to have the same type of a hierarchical, like I go to a lot of van lines and I go to a lot of moving companies, a lot of relocation companies, and there's all these levels of management, and there's all these managers, senior managers, directors, senior directors, assistant vice presidents, say
Assistant
principals,
to the vice president.
assistant to the assistant, and senior vice presidents, executive vice presidents, presidents of different divisions and all this. But you're over here, touching $1.6 billion of revenue through these companies, and all these, 200,000 moves, et cetera. And there's not all this hierarchy and stuff. And you explained to me, you have like a teams environment. What is that how does that work?
Yeah, so we shifted from a kind of a traditional hierarchical model to we call it teams-based model. Basically, there is one kind of leadership group that sets strategy and kind of works on big picture things. But otherwise, all the rest of our 60 employees are on individual teams. There's no leader on that team. There's no team leader. There's no manager. The team is collectively responsible for hitting their goals. The teams may be organized around service we offer, or special projects, or different functionality that we need. But then the teams set their goals. They make the decisions on how to achieve those. The team is held accountable for whether they meet their marks or not. And they make all the decisions to get there. There's not someone on that team who is a decision maker, who is a manager, who is their supervisor. We don't really have anybody who has direct reports here. So it really creates a collective atmosphere of responsibility. And it again is a challenging way to do business, but if you can do it that way, we've seen incredible results from that. And we wouldn't be able to kind of work the way we do in a traditional model.
I want to talk about this model a little bit, but I want to also take some of the comments here. Scott Canary says there are not 8 bosses or TPS reports to do at Daycos.
That's true.
Love that nod to Office Space. Very cool. Christian says, back in the day as a 6-year-old, didn't you just feel tempted to draw on the invoices? That's what my 6-year-old would have done.
When I was 6, the way it was, and there are probably maybe there's some people who will remember this, but when you invoice the government, you did it on these manifests of SF 1113, and they were like 3.
What's an SF 1113?
So if you don't know what
wouldn't that be
Trivia
1,113 out of
It is
1113?
standard form dash 1113. It's a government invoice.
Yes.
Okay, when you used to send paper invoices, or still do, you have to send it on an SF 1113. And these would come with like 3-part paper. They printed on dot matrix. And so I would have to sort
Like
them out.
carbon paper?
Do you know
Yeah,
what
carbon
those are?
paper.
Like triplicate?
Yeah,
Okay.
the loud printers, you remember
Yeah.
those? Okay.
Dot matrix.
And so my parents were genius in lots of ways, but one of the ways is, how do you motivate a 6-year-old? Well, you give them money so they can buy candy or something.
Yeah.
So I was paid 25 cents per manifest, which was a grouping of those invoices, to do the mailing of them. So I'd come home from school, I'd get to eat dinner, and then I'd sit in front of the TV with my sister, and my mom would be down there, and we would crank this out, watch TV, and I'd be like, oh, I've worked for 3 hours, I can go buy a candy bar now. And that was like, when you're 6, that's pretty good pay.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's really good.
You should consider that for your
Back
kids.
in the day, I should.
Yeah.
I should
And
have to go
child
work.
labor laws do not apply to your own kids.
Not to your own kids.
Not to your
I
own
know.
kids.
That's
It's a genius loophole.
I'm learning that. Hit that like button, get in the comments. Let us know what you think about child labor. Big fan, personally.
Daycos comes out pro-child labor.
No,
That's
no,
a good
no,
that's the
takeaway from this.
But in all honesty, as a person that has young children, like our kids do need to learn how to work. They need to learn. I mean, and this stuff is not rocket science. It's not something a kid can't do. Like, I don't know why we don't put our kids in positions to contribute more.
Yep. it's a shocking, to me, and our daughters are now in college and older, 21 and 23. But it's shocking how years never worked in high school or anything. And when our kids turn 16, we're like, you're going to get a job, because if you don't, you're coming to Daycos and we're going to put you.
Because they had worked here when they were younger.
You're doing filing or whatever we
Shredding,
need.
taking out the recycling.
And so they worked. And it didn't matter how much they worked, but we wanted them to work. We wanted them to have a
somebody
boss.
else.
We wanted them to learn what it was like to show up and do stuff. And it was surprising to me how many of their friends did not ever work. But
Yeah, crazy. I'm trying to get my kids to pull weeds for money. We'll see how it goes. Jillian Guzza checking in from Gloma HQ. What's up, Jill? Tim Quirk checking in says, I was told that Daycos employees work there to see Brandon in an elf on the shelf
Oh,
costume.
gosh.
What's that about?
I don't know how Tim gets his information.
Tim's got a mole in the
So-
organization.
We had some employees, and we do, as I've told Ben, we do some wacky stuff around here, and we try to have fun at work. And we had some employees who took it upon themselves to bring Elf on a Shelf
Uh-huh.
to Daycos.
Yep.
And they decided to do the adult version of Elf on a Shelf. So some of the things they set up were a little bit on edge,
Yeah.
but all in good fun. And so I asked them to come in my office one day, and they thought they were getting in trouble for doing, the elves at a strip club with Barbie on a pole.
Yeah,
kind of
sure.
thing,
Why not? Okay.
And instead, I told them that let's take this up a notch. And on the last day they were going to do this, I would dress in an elf costume and hide somewhere in the office, and whoever found me got a prize. And
We
so,
can get you pictures.
I'm sorry.
so we did that for I think 3 or 4 years. And the last year, when I was like, okay, we've kind of played this out, we're gonna do it. I said, let's take it to the literal edge. And so I snuck out, climbed up on a ladder, got on the roof of our building, and hung off the ledge while everybody looked for me.
And this is December?
Yep.
Was it cold up there?
It was cold. We actually, I think one time we were going to do it the year before, and we had to postpone because there was ice on the roof, and my wife was afraid I'd break my neck.
Yeah.
So we had to push it back a year.
Local businessman dies playing Elf on the Shelf. Yeah,
And
that
so,
would be terrible. to
and
go
really,
out
it was
that
great.
way.
The only reason we got found out was that people were driving by the office, and they were calling employees who worked
That
here
they
and
knew.
said, "Hey, do you know there's some guy up on your roof in an elf costume?"
Oh my gosh. Speaking of really bad rumors, Christian's starting. Ben, I only heard kid and weed. Please explain. Christian, listen, I know there's a slight language barrier, okay? Christian's Swiss German or German Swiss, I forget which one. Sorry.
So we're pro child labor and pro children and weed.
Apparently,
Is that
yeah. When taken
Strong
out of
start.
context. Jana Chesnowski says, Happy Wednesday, everyone. What a great day to hear from Daycos. Is it Wednesday? I don't know. No, it's not. But we're in the
It's
future.
okay.
Jana's in Rio. She's hours ahead of
I was
us.
going to say, I don't even think that's ahead of the date line over there.
Joining in. Let's see here. Bono says, there we go. Joining from Daycos. Here we go. Everybody checking in. This is great. Angela's in the house here. Appreciate it. David Yakum from Coleman American in the house. What's up? Tim saying, Brandon, the perfect straight man. There, I think he means from a comedic standpoint. Daisy, hi from Como HQ. I
don't think
needed
anybody
more
else
Elf on
thought
the Shelf
anything
ideas.
different.
Thank you, Daisy. I appreciate you so much. Yeah, I want to talk about this purpose thing because y'all really do lead with purpose, and it's evident as I walk through your office. Is so much intentionality around everything you do, down to the local artwork on the walls, and the way that you live your mission, vision, values throughout. You see a lot of companies that talk about these things and put it on the wall or in the advertisements, and you don't necessarily see it lived out. And y'all do probably a better job of living it than any other company I've visited, to be honest with you.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. My Venmo is at Deep. No, but no, I mean, I say that seriously. What was that epiphany for you? Can you tell me, like, how did that come about where you decided that purpose was something that you needed to incorporate into your business?
Yeah, I think, first of all, the legacy of the company from my parents on has always been that giving back was super important. And we're located in a community in kind of a rural part of Nebraska where the community is really important to us, and we're really important to the community, so we've always been about that. After Tammy and I took over ownership of the company, we continued in that way and really had, reached a point where we had a lot of business success, a lot of personal success, and we were really just trying to figure out what's next for Daycos. What was it? It was kind of like, I think the analogy we use, like a midlife crisis for the business. Like, oh, we've done all this stuff, that's great. We hit success we didn't think we had, but so what? What's next, right?
Right.
And so, what we really came around to is the reason that drives us to get up every day and come back is like, let's use this business as a way to have a positive impact in the world, right? And in our community and on the people who work here. And so we had this epiphany and we're like, we need to, and we originally it was just about like giving back more, right? Because that's one of our core values. And so we talked about, giving back, doubling down on giving back. And then
Like, what did giving back look like at that juncture, though?
at that point, it was kind of, we use the analogy of like a kind of an ATM with our community. Like they would come to us and ask for money, and we would almost always say yes to whatever amount we could. And that's a great way of supporting our community. And so originally we talked about doubling down on that, where it's like, well, we'll just give more money.
Just more cash.
Right. People ask us, instead of, if they ask us for $10,000, we'll give them $20,000 for their great project
Note
or
to
something.
self.
Yeah. Not for their great project, I said, not just
Not just cause, okay.
in general. But over time, as we've kind of explored what it means, if you want to be a company about doing good, we've really moved well beyond the money part and tried to figure out, if we're going to be a company that is about doing good, how do you do that in all the things you do, right? Because I've always said to people, like, if you're a company that treats your employees like crap, right, and screws over your customers every chance you get, it doesn't matter that you are giving a lot of money to charity, you're still not doing good.
Yeah.
And so for us, it's looking at it more holistically and saying, what's it mean for a business to be 100% all in on doing good? And what decisions do you make differently because of that? And we spent the last 7 or 8 years on this journey trying to figure it out, and we still have a long way to go. But it's been a fun ride so far.
I want to talk about that a little bit more. And Tammy, can you give me some like examples and like some specifics around some of the things that you've done and some of the more kind of creative ways you've found to deploy the doing good strategy?
Yeah, I think one of the things Brandon said is being all in, and so you have to think about what does that mean. And for us, one of the things it means is that our employees drive a lot of the investments that we make in the community, in themselves and their families, in the way that things work here through our team structure, right? Because we have found that if people are actually given an opportunity to truly engage in a meaningful way, you unleash all of these assets that are often sort of stifled or underutilized. And I say this a lot, and so sorry, Brandon, but no, there's a phrase, no one ever washes a rental car, because if you don't own something,
Trust me, I just rented a car yesterday and it was filthy.
you don't take care of it. So
Yeah.
if you're not truly
So true.
involved in owning those efforts, so we try to find ways for employees to engage in this purpose-driven business. So how they serve our customers, they make decisions about what kinds of investments we give back to our community. It's not Brandon and I doing that work. It's all the other people here at Daycos, because they're really the reason we're successful and are able to do any of this anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting too, because I see parallels between your management strategy with the teams and not having like a supervisor, but the team kind of comes up with the answer and is empowered to make the decision. Plus they've been here 18 years, they can figure it out, right?
Right.
Well, with the same thing with the giving strategy, where it's like, hey, we're going to empower you also
Right.
to give.
Yes, and they kind of followed each other. So
So do you give them like a big bag of money and say, just go figure it out?
Well, so we have a community investment committee,
Okay.
as an example, and every year they get a line in our budget, and they have a certain amount of dollars to grant to community projects, right? And so what we saw is when that started and people really had the agency to do what they thought met the wishes of their coworkers, they started showing up in the company in lots of different ways, more leadership, asking for more responsibilities, a little more confidence. And so I think we sort of stumbled on the teams model through that in some ways, because we realized that when people really were just given the freedom to do the things they know how to do and become the experts that you referenced, you can have all kinds of amazing things start to happen. But oftentimes people in traditional leadership roles do not want to get out of the way and sort of open their hands and sort of cede that control in some ways. But if you can get to a point where you can start to do that, I mean, it's amazing what kind of wisdom and expertise exists that's not being utilized.
So you're saying the giving, the empowering people to give, and the employee investment committees actually came before
Yes.
the teams model?
Yes,
See, I kind
absolutely.
of, I had it wrong, I had it backwards.
Yeah, the teams model is only 3 years old. And it really, Brianna and I are fairly smart people, right? We have lots of smart people that work here, but we
You're half right.
it's like
Just
we
kidding, very
didn't
smart.
realize all the other outcomes
Yeah.
that would happen by just trying to live out this purpose in a way that our employees really owned. And once we started to see all of these outcomes happening, it was like, well, how else are we going to apply this? Because we have been in people's way in some ways, right? So now our what you might consider your traditional leadership team at the company is really there to say, how can we help? What kinds of resources do you need? How do we support what you're doing?
Right.
I feel like my work, the people I probably support the most are the committee members trying to give out those dollars. And you can ask them, I ask a lot of questions because that is how I think, I can be there to serve, like, well, what if we look at it like this or that? And so it's really just being there to provide support and resourcing as opposed to directives.
Yeah.
And I think it can be scary if you've always been a traditional leadership person to just be like, okay, I'm going to say I'm not the smartest person in this room, right?
Yeah.
And so it is made a lot of difference for us in many ways.
I love it. I'm going to double click into this, and I have some questions for Tammy about how to get started on this because I'm really intrigued. We got a couple people checking in. Get in the comments. Let us know what your thoughts are. Hit that like button as well. Daisy says, I love your employee engagement. Nice work. Angela Henry says, it is so incredible to be part of a company that encourages and supports personal growth as well. Ooh,
Nice.
I want to talk a little bit about that because I've been hearing that as a recurring theme. And Indita Chaudhary from USI Law, founder of the largest woman-owned business immigration
Nice.
law firm in the U.S. What's up, Anandita, and a Glomo client as well. Love you, Anandita. Sandra saying, great insights. Tammy Christian says, I love how you two apply the, quote, servant leader model in your daily life. Very impressive. So we have business leaders out here who are watching this, who are tuning in like, wow, that sounds really cool. You also have a lot of folks in there that are on teams out there that are saying, I want to work for a company like that. So how do you get started? Like as a CEO of my own company, how do I get started with something like this?
Yeah, one of the things we do is talk to a lot of companies who do have that curiosity. They're wondering, I'm not Daycos 8 years in, but how do I begin? And I think the first thing to do is just to have that intention to do something more. And then, we took a lot of time talking to other people, learning what other companies were doing, learning about what does it mean to be a B Corp or whatever, but trying to see what are some of the options out there, and then really getting clear about why you want to do that. Why is that important to you? If it's just to recruit more people or maybe sell a few more widgets, that's fine, but it's probably not going to be sustainable.
Right. Right. That won't drive you through the hard times of
No.
business
So if you
together.
can get to your why,
Yeah.
and I do believe, especially for younger workers entering the workforce, they want to be somewhere
Sure.
where work means a little bit more than just getting a paycheck, right? Those lines have become blurry between service and work sometimes. And so if we can offer that to them, we do have recruiting advantages and we do have retention advantages, but
Yeah.
that can't be the heart of why you start something. So I think it's really kind of just taking that internal look and having external conversations about what's possible.
This is so interesting because when I look at all the things that y'all do well, it all stems from the way that you do giving and community impact stuff. When I look at the operational excellence with the teams model and the empowering everybody and the flat, the flatness of the organization, and the nimbleness, right, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that comes, you just said, from first doing it from a giving standpoint, and then it trickled over operationally. And now you're talking about talent, which is funny because I've worked with you from a talent and recruiting standpoint, and how to hire in Norfolk, Nebraska, best in class, IT talent. You got 25 developers here, technical people in this building, which is a massive amount of percentage of people for your company, and how to find those folks here, right? As an outsider would seem like a hard problem, and yet you do it really well. And you're saying that also stems from your giving and community impact strategy.
I think so. I think, we talk a lot about stakeholders, which if you've read anything into some of this conscious capitalism or whatever, shareholders, stakeholders, but we talk about customers, company, employees, and community.
Explain this concept, please, for people out there that may not be familiar with it.
Yeah, so stakeholders are the people that have a vested interest in the company and are an integral part of that company and its success. And so each company can define what those stakeholders are. For us, it's the company is a stakeholder in itself. Our customers, obviously a stakeholder, our employees, and then our community is one of our stakeholders. And we believe that in everything we do, we have to find stakeholder balance, because if you get out of whack in any of those, it disrupts the whole system. So we make investments in our community, and through that, we believe we will have benefits. We can hire the best people who say, you know what, I want to work somewhere that makes a difference and I can feel like I'm contributing. And then those best people come here and they stay and they do amazing work for our customers. And our customers feel great about that and they think, I like working with these guys, I'm going to keep giving them business. Then we generate more revenue for the company, who can then invest those dollars back. And Brandon and I talk about this virtual flywheel that starts to spin and spin once you invest in those places. And it doesn't matter where, as long as you're keeping that balance of the wheel. I don't know if you have anything else to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's
that,
really just about, and it's trying to represent that it's integral to how we do business. It's not like a tack-on little program that we do. It is core to it, and you can't take it out and get that flywheel to spin.
Well, and I think that's so important what you say, because I think oftentimes with these initiatives, we tack them on to our business. We tack on DE&I. We tack on giving, and ESG. We just tack them on. So we have a business, and then we tack on this thing because we want to say we have it. And y'all have really, I mean, granted the business was going on kind of before, but y'all have really put it at the middle, and everything has kind of spun off from that. But that takes a lot of courage, because going back to kind of how we opened up, it's like businesses have to make money. They have to be profitable. That profit and cash is the lifeblood of a business, and yet all of these things cost money. And that's really scary.
Some cost money.
Well, so I guess you're right. Some maybe some don't, but that's scary. Isn't
we
it?
don't think of it as cost. We think of it as investments, right? And companies make all kinds of investments in things that they think will have a payoff, whether it's technology, equipment, assets, whatever. This is how we view it, as this is an investment.
So somebody might buy a truck, and that's $150,000 sunk into that truck, but they know they're going to make $1 million off that truck.
Yep. And that's how we think of it in terms of our people. And this. I mean, how important is the quality of talent of people you have in your organization?
It's everything.
It's everything.
A company is the sum of its parts.
If I say this is a way to improve the quality of people who want to work here, who want to stay here, who are dedicated to making this company successful, there is very little amount of money that you would say, oh, that's costing you a lot. It just looks like a smart investment. However, you have to think of it in long term. If you look at it over the course of a quarter or even a year or two, it probably doesn't have the ROI. You got to have a long term. But if you have that long term, it is a no-brainer strategy.
Well, and that's also one of the positives of having a generational company, is that they think in terms of decades, right? Not in terms of quarters.
And we think we've been around 46 years. And we plan on being here at least 46 more, right? So when we think about things, that's what we're thinking about, is how do we set ourselves up for success 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 or 30 years from now, when I'm not going to be sitting here working anymore, but this company will endure because we have great people and we're trying to build a system that'll allow that to continue.
I'm sorry.
I would just say, though, it's not about just, let's do this so we can hire the best people. To me, that's something that could be a nice outcome, but if that's at the heart of why you're doing it, that's not genuine.
Not sustainable.
And people will eventually realize that it is a program or it's an effort, right? So how can you build in long-term accountability for yourself and your efforts, and that's why I talked about you have to ground it in why this is really important to you. And I think if you can figure those things out, one of them can be because you want to hire the best people, but it can't be the only thing, right? It has to be bigger than that. Because that's where your kind of the genuineness of who you are as a company comes through. And that's what people are attracted to, right? Relationships, the people in a place make the place, right?
Yeah.
And so I think you have to think through all
Because
of that.
there will come a point, if you're a business that claims you're about doing good and operating with purpose, there comes a point where you're gonna have to make a decision.
Right.
And that decision is gonna be very hard, because it's gonna be painful
Yeah.
in the short term.
Yeah.
And if the first time you face that decision, you throw all this purpose stuff aside, then
Yeah.
your employees know you're full of it.
What was one of those moments for you, Brandon?
Well, I think for us, the most recent one that kind of stuck in everyone's head was COVID. And, when COVID hit, we the industry faced a massive loss of revenue. Our customers were not going to be generating much business for us because they weren't doing moves, so we weren't going to do invoicing. And so we were doing some projection. We were just facing a massive loss of revenue. And we really talked about, hey, from a dollars and cents point of view, the smart thing is start cutting hours, reducing overhead, laying off people. That's what was going on. But we really had to stop and check and say, wait a minute, we're about doing good. We claim this is what we're about, right? And we're very transparent with our employees in a lot of ways, including financial, so they kind of know where we're at. So we basically, got together on a Zoom call or Teams meeting and said, hey, you guys know where we are financially as a company, right? Because financial status. We are going to take the hit as long as we can as a company. We're going to take the hit so that you don't have to. We're going to keep everyone employed 40 hours a week for as long as we can. What we need you to do is figure out how we make that last as long as we can. And then they had ownership in that as well, and they jumped in, and we figured out all kinds of ways. We actually went out and lowered our cost to our customers because we thought that was an important piece. They were struggling at the time, obviously, so we said, let's lower the cost. That will encourage them to use us more because they don't have a lot of excess capital, and lower their costs and their loss of revenue. And that was an idea from employees of, hey, what if we did this? And of course, someone comes and says, I think, we're facing this loss of revenue. What should we do? Let's lower our fees. It was but it made sense, and it actually worked.
Yeah.
And we ended up surviving that without ever having to lay off anybody, without ever having to, and before the government money showed up, that was like, oh, okay, we maybe we could have got through this without realizing, but we were prepared to do the long-term thing. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of a gut check thing. But if we had folded on that and we had just said, hey, we need to lay off, what we'd be doing is placing that business stakeholder above the needs of the other stakeholders, and our employees would know we weren't really genuine.
Right. We did try to balance the stakeholders, though, because we also said we're pausing all community investments right now. We cannot afford to really have any extra spending, so they have to kind of hang in balance. You can't sacrifice one. We didn't stop. We found ways to do things without money, and that were more service oriented or volunteer oriented in the ways that were possible during COVID. So we had to shift, but it was like we ask ourselves in almost every decision we make, how does this impact every stakeholder in that wheel? And if the answer is, well, it's going to destroy this one, then it's no. And we have to find a new way forward of making that work. So I think COVID was a good test because it's easy to do the right thing when it's easy, right? Yeah. It's harder when you have a situation that tests whether you really believe that or not.
Yeah, and the last few years have been just an incredible test because the ups and the downs, right? I mean, COVID, right in the middle of, early COVID when everything just shut down, and even though, we're essential workers in the transportation industry, the incredible, shortfall of revenue and things, and then boom, the next year, and it's a banner year, right? We're 2021 or 2022, where it's just like, moving companies are printing money, they're just doing so much business. And then the last, 18 months with interest rates being really high and home sales and transactions going, really low. And maybe y'all are insulated from that a little bit, being really in the military side, but, in the broader, corporate relocation and consumer moving space, really tough times. And I heard somebody say, your values are things that you'd hire and fire for, and things that you're willing to lose money over, right? And I think that's what you just kind of described. Yeah. It's been a really tough time. I really appreciate y'all sharing that. we got another question here, and it kind of goes back to the talent piece, okay? Christian's asking the question on everybody's mind right now. Christian turned and says, how on earth did you get 25 IT people to move to Norfolk, Nebraska? I just looked it up, and Norfolk has a population of 25,000, so these are already 1/1000th of the total population.
That's good.
We got very educated viewers
I
today,
know,
okay?
man.
Doing the
That's-
math.
Yeah, doing
That's
math
great.
out here.
Yeah.
So is being in Norfolk a disadvantage or an advantage?
Yeah, there are advantages and disadvantages. When we go out and we talk to customers or potential customers, and we talk to large organizations, and we mention we're from Nebraska, then it's like, oh, you're from Omaha. Well, no, we're not from Omaha. We're a couple hours from Omaha. And it's a disadvantage at that point because they create this image, right? You can't be, and especially on the technology side, you can't be very technologically advanced if you're located in a town of 25,000 in Nebraska.
Right.
And a lot of times I'll get a question, and the question is usually formed something like, well, how did you end up in Norfolk, Nebraska? But really what they're asking is, why
Why
you
the
in
hell
Norfolk?
did you end up in Norfolk,
Why are you in
Nebraska?
Norfolk, Nebraska? Why don't you? But it's great because it gives me the opportunity to tell the story. And here's the story. We are not successful in spite of being located in Norfolk, Nebraska. We are successful in large part because of being located in Norfolk,
Wow.
Nebraska.
Why?
Couple of reasons. One is we treat our people really well, right? And in a small town like
And their people say that too. That's not just them
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
it. Talk to
yeah.
the people.
in a small town, everyone knows how employers treat their employees.
Yeah.
So we have people who will want to apply for jobs for us, come in to interview, and they'll say, I don't even know what you do. I don't know what this position is, but I always told myself, if I had a chance to work at Daycos, I would do it.
Wow.
And so we are in a small pond of hiring, but we get the best people in this community to come work here. And I think that, and from a technology point of view, we offer them the ability to do really cool things. And sometimes if you want to live in a town that is smaller, you may not have those opportunities.
Yeah.
We give them those opportunities, we invest in them, and we make sure that when they're here, they feel like they're doing something larger than themselves. And so it's not, hiring has been challenging at times like anywhere else, but we've tended to not have problems finding and bringing in great people, great talented people. And the other part of it is, because of where we're located, the quality of the people we bring in is extraordinary. And we were talking about this a little bit, but one of the things about being in a rural community is farming's very popular. Around here is very important to the
A
economy.
lot of corn.
A lot of corn.
Lot of
Ben will
corn.
attest.
It's harvest.
Lot of cows.
We were doing a lot of corn education last
The
night at dinner.
average corn knowledge around here is astounding. You could sit down in a bar, start talking corn with somebody that's never worked on a farm in their life, and they know more about corn than most
That is
Jeopardy
true.
contestants.
That is true. But if you're someone who grows up that grows up on a farm, and you come to work at Daycos where you work 8 to 5 or whatever flexible hours you want, and you're in an air-conditioned office, this is the easiest part of your life you're ever going to experience, right? The work ethic and the way that people approach and the loyalty and stuff is so great, and not just with people who grew up on farms, but everybody in this community, that it's really been a tremendous advantage. We can bring people in here who are well-educated, do our excellent schools, who want to do a good job, want to feel like they're part of something, and they show up and they do that great work. And it's not like we're genius motivators in that. That's instilled into a lot of the culture.
Well, I think you treat people really well, and I think that's a really strong motivator. It's not like you got to be Tony Robbins, right? I mean,
Right.
you just you treat people with a lot of respect. You give them a lot of you empower them, and you act with integrity. And I think that goes a long way. And Christian, to answer your other question here, and kind of the maybe the implied question, or the kind of question that Brandon alluded to as well before about like how can you be technologically advanced in Norfolk, Nebraska? Don't you have to be in the Bay Area? Don't you have to be in New York City or Austin or one of these cool tech hubs? I'll be honest, like I saw some tech, today, and I talked to some folks about some of the stuff that y'all are doing with like machine learning around this stuff. I mean, it is really advanced, especially compared to, I have the pleasure of visiting, all the major relocation companies out there, all the major, van lines out there. And I mean, the stuff that y'all are doing is probably more advanced than anything I've seen.
Yeah, we've always tried. That's been, I think if we look at what are the two things that have made us successful over 46 years, one is the people who have worked here and the quality of the people that work at Daycos. But the second is using technology and using it to offer efficiencies that we can then pass on to our customers so that we can do the work better and less expensive than they might be able to do it themselves. And it really is part of the culture. My, back in the days when I talked about my father traveling all over the country and we were working at home, he would take, again, something most people will know, it was called the compact luggable computer, which was like a large suitcase-sized computer, and he would put it up, and the keyboard folded down, and there was a green screen and a 5 1/4 floppy, and he would tell the story, like when he talked about going to...
Those are the floppies that were actually floppy.
When they were floppy, yeah. He
school.
talked about the first time he went to Fort Wayne, Indiana to do work at Serva.
Yeah.
Okay? And he set up his computer and they give him a room and he would do the work on site. And he said he lost about 3 days of work because word got out on the Serva campus. There was this crazy guy with this tiny computer doing work. And people lined up literally to come see it because they had never seen a computer smaller than a mainframe before, smaller than a room. And so he
it was like the first personal.
It was like the first,
computer.
portable. They wasn't like they call it portable. They called it luggable computer.
Luggable.
Because it was probably like.
I'm not gonna call it portable, but it's
Yeah.
luggable.
So that's
Luggable.
ingrained into the culture of here. When I after college I came back and started working, my first thing was I had to get all of our customers on the internet because we wanted them to interact with us via email. And so I spent an inordinate amount of time teaching people how to set up an email account, how to attach a file to an email, how to send it to us. And this was the first time they were getting on the internet.
What years was this?
This would have been 97-ish, 96,
yeah.
97, 98.
So you were literally like just teaching movers about how to use the internet.
Yep. Well, and it would be like, hey, do you see a paperclip anywhere? Because that's probably what they're looking for.
That's your friend.
Or do you have any teenagers who are maybe working back in the warehouse?
Yes. Could you
Could
get a
you go
teenager,
grab one of
please?
them for me and let me?
Because at this point you're on the phone with them.
Yes,
you're
you're
not
on the
like
phone.
screen sharing.
Yes.
You're not FaceTiming.
Yes.
You're like, do you see a paperclip? Is there a teenager around?
Yes, that was pretty much it.
Go get your kid that's sweeping the dock over there.
And that has run through the history of the company. And we've always looked at what the technology is and sometimes we've been out too far in advance. We did machine learning, 5 years ago we did a big project with machine learning and we thought this is it and this was before ChatGPT and AI was the buzzword everywhere. We thought, we've got this. And we spent an inordinate amount of money and time to learn the technology is just not ready yet. And that's the thing you learn sometimes when you do that. But it's paid off more often than not.
But it
allows
takes time for machines to learn too, just like people,
That's
right?
right, yeah.
So this 5 years they've been learning.
They've been
at
learning,
their
they've been
own
getting
pace.
smarter, and
Bless
we've
their
been
heart.
patient. And
Yeah.
we see a lot of advantages from those sorts of things.
Really, really interesting. This is Scott Canary says we're still teaching movers to use the internet. That's cool. I want to ask about that. Christian says my dad had one of those computers. Richard joining in says this is great. Says joining in from the UK, from London. Already loving this story. What the world needs more of is caring employers. Ironically, this sounds like Norfolk, UK, which is super rural. Christian says exactly what I thought, just less corn. Super interesting. Let me ask you about this whole because you are in such an interesting position because you touch so many shipments and you get to see you have so much data around the way folks are writing these shipments up, the paperwork, the process. It was super interesting. I was talking to Andrea and some of the team earlier, and I was asking them about the effect of paperless versus paper, because you still deal with paper here.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen the warehouse with the banker's boxes of paper back there. I wasn't allowed to photograph it because there's personal information.
Or look at any
Or even
files.
look. I had to go in there and touch the paper and say, "Yep, it's paper." And then no, but I mean, there's a lot of paper still in
There's
this
a lot of paper.
business. How has that evolved over the years, and what's that timeline and that evolution kind of been like?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone from a day when paper was truly paper, like printed documents, right? And there was a time when every day FedEx and UPS would show up and they would drop stacks and stacks of paper that were billing that we were going to then generate.
Stacks.
And we actually scheduled our 24-hour turnaround from, okay, FedEx is here, the 24-hour clock starts.
It starts now.
It starts now.
So you would schedule shifts around the
Yep.
FedEx delivery.
Yep, we would know what that time
Love
they were
that.
coming.
Old school.
Yep.
So people would work overnight.
Overnight.
On the Fed-
Well, they work. We tend to be early mornings. We
Yeah.
tend to have
It's a
people
lot
that
easier to
come out
offer
full.
work-life balance when you're not waiting on the FedEx truck, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And we had a van that went around the country picking up paper box files, bringing them back and
When
returning
you say a
them.
van, like how big of a van?
Not like a
Not a moving van.
not a moving van.
But I did hear one time,
12
somebody told me a
passengers.
story that you had one customer that you would send an 18-wheeler truck to get their paperwork.
We have done that before. Yes.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of paperwork.
That's a lot of paperwork. And so obviously over the years,
When did that stop?
Well, in some ways, the paper part of that has gradually declined over the last 10 years. But the interesting thing is, there's still paper. It's just digitized earlier on in the process. And so we still have, especially working in the government space, government people who are approving things love to see paper, right? It doesn't matter. We can take some data out of our computer system, print it on a piece of paper, and they will believe it if it's on a piece of paper as opposed to on a computer
Isn't that
screen.
funny? Somebody somewhere writes on a piece of paper, they scan it in, they email it to you, and then like you have to print it back out, or then you email it to somebody else.
Yeah.
They have to print it back out to approve it.
So in a lot of ways, we still handle a lot of paper. I think we have a system, one of our core technology pieces, our document system, that brings in every document that comes in, gets indexed, we pull data off it, we clean it up, we do all these things. And we handle about over 10 million documents, individual documents, on an annual basis.
10 million, not pages, but documents.
Yes, 10 million documents.
10 million documents per year.
Every single year, and that number is not going down.
Are you in the document business, or are you in
a lot
the
of ways.
billing business, or in the?
I mean, the document part of it is because of our investments in technology, and this is where we invested in machine learning a long time ago and did that. We're fortunate now. We used to have, if you came to Daycos 10 years, you'd have a whole room full of scanners.
Oh, wow.
And we were digitizing all those. Now, because of the digitalization happening
So they would
early-
send you the paper and you'd scan it.
Yeah,
Now
we'd
they scan it.
Yeah, now they scan it.
Man,
it comes in
innovation.
electronic. Yes, I know. We are on the cutting edge of this industry sometimes.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, it allows us to use that technology. So we handle 10 million documents, but we don't use a lot of employee time handling those 10 million documents. They handle exceptions, things that go wrong, obviously, any of that stuff. But most of the time, the computer is in the background telling us, this is the document you need, here's the data.
So the
you know.
computer can read the scanned documents and extract the information it needs?
Yes. I mean, it's not 100%.
With what,
foolproof.
what percentage would you say?
Well, it's really a
the accuracy
document by
you can say?
document type of thing. So it really depends on what kind of form it is. For example, weight tickets.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, are nice.
Human beings can't read a weight
Yeah,
ticket.
yes.
I don't feel like these people are like even
Yes.
humans are writing them. They're like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, so we have spent a lot of time trying to
of
figure
doctors
out
working at
how,
weigh
and
stations.
a lot of times we're not even trying to read the data. We may be trying to verify the data. We have the data over here. We need to make sure that the document supports what we already believe is true. And the computer's pretty good at that because it says, this is this weight here. Does this match? Does this look like? And it'll say
Yeah.
with a certain degree of confidence, yes
So
or
it's
no.
like, don't tell me what this number is, just tell me, is it this number?
Yes. How
So it's like-
confident are you that it's a
It's
number?
like when I scan a check in, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, enter the amount, $1,000, and it goes in and it's,
Yeah.
because I first have to tell it what the amount is, and then it will tell
Yeah.
me if it's
Yeah.
$1,000.
And we have some technology that is just pulling stuff off there.
Yeah.
And so you can, we have a free online rating tool called moverspay.com, and you can go on there and you can upload a GBL, and it'll just, which is the government bill of lading, the core document for, the DoD moving, it'll pull all the data off there and enter it in so that you can rate the shipment.
Is there an opportunity to take some of this technology that's driven a lot of efficiencies on the government side and apply it to the corporate side of the business?
Yeah, I mean, I think from what we know about the corporate side of the business is there are different inefficiencies, but there's still a lot of inefficiencies in that. There are still a lot of places where if you step back and you look at the way the process works from end to end, it seems like there are things that could be done more efficiently, more effectively, more cost effectively, because everywhere, I always tell people in any sort of move, any kind of shipment, but household goods shipments, every time there's a transaction where it hands from one piece to another, there is a change of money that goes with it. There's a financial transaction. So we talk about the financial supply chain sometimes, right? That's really where we're working. And the more pieces the more you can have places where inefficiency can build in. And so we look at that and we say, there are places in there where we really feel like, this is an area where technology and expertise could really bring some efficiency to
So
bear.
you're kind of in the finding money business.
We're in the finding money business.
I can't, because I'm trying to find out what business you're in. Is it the billing business, the document business? I think it might be the finding money business. Because I like what you said, every time the document changes hand, there's money that's transacted there.
Yep,
Money
there's a
that's
financial
spent on
transaction that goes along.
Frankly, money that could be gained or lost in the interpretation of that
Yep.
information that was changed hands. And
Yep.
would it get billed or not get billed? Does it billed accurately?
Yeah, gotta be
There's a whole
billed,
lot
gotta be
of-
audited, do they get paid at the right amount?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of those opportunities.
Yeah, really, really interesting. This is way more interesting than I think people expected. You know, this whole the doing good and all that. I mean, I think everybody connects with people, but the paper side of this business, I think, is even more interesting than I would have thought.
Yeah, I mean,
thanks for
we've done this for a long time. We think we're pretty good at it. We value our long-term relationships with our customers and our partners, but we do focus a lot on how do we get better and how do we get more efficient and how do we drive those efficiencies too. And there's not a day that goes by that we don't sit and look and go, hey, can we figure out a better way to do this to drive down
Yeah.
costs and improve that?
Well, when I think about the process between a moving company and all the documents that they have to, submit over to the move management company or the relocation management company, and then, an audit firm in the middle, and then there's this kind of weird triangle of stuff going on here and back and forth going on. I think there's a lot of inefficiencies and a lot of opportunity to kind of consolidate that, documentation supply chain, which then creates a financial supply chain. There's a lot of opportunities there, and so, very exciting stuff that you're working on here.
And really, some of those things are that, the best part of things we're always looking for is win-wins, right?
Yeah.
Like when you can find a solution that helps all the people in that gain some efficiencies, cut some costs, get money moving faster, you can, in certain circumstances, find things that really don't have costs but have wins. for
How
yourself.
much money can companies save, do you think? What's the opportunity?
I'm not sure how you want me to quantify
US
it.
dollars.
U.S.
I mean, do you ever see like ROI studies from companies saying like how much money they save, maybe per file from using maybe outsourcing the billing? Because I've worked at moving companies before where we've done the billing internally. I've also outsourced it. I definitely I've seen it all the ways.
Yeah.
Didn't think it was incredibly efficient. I mean, I've seen, people sit there with a stack of documents going through and
Yeah.
their stuff getting misbilled all the time.
Well, what we know is that we do both billing and audit services, and so we know, for example, for shipments that we audit that we don't do the billing for, we find an average of close to $40 per shipment that is revenue that is left behind in that original billing. So we believe that when you have us bill at the original, you get that $40 up front, which is way more than what we charge to do that billing in the first place.
Well, in 1,000 shipments, that's $40,000.
Yeah, that's 40. So we always tell people, okay, if you've got a bunch of boxes with shipment files in it, go look at them all. Imagine there's $40 sitting in each one of those file folders.
Each one
That's
of those
really what
manila
it
folders
is.
$40 in it.
And then the other thing is, we really focus on getting the money moving faster. And in the DoD space, our customers get paid considerably faster than the averages that are posted across the industry, even though we represent probably 65 to 70% of the industry. Our customers tend to get paid anywhere from 3 to 6 days faster. And it's the difference between, a 4 or 5 day payment cycle versus an 8 or 9 day payment cycle. And that has a real cost benefit as well.
Yeah, if you can cut the payment cycle in half, I mean,
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's really interesting. Thanks for sticking around. I want to get into a little overrated, underrated here, live from Daycos HQ. And we're going to play with Tammy and Brandon, kind of interesting. I don't know that we've ever played this with a married couple before.
Okay.
So this might be very interesting.
I don't
Okay.
even know what this is.
Oh, you don't know what this
I
is?
didn't really either.
Oh, this is a segment that we play called Overrated, Underrated. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Here, okay. Oh, my dad's tuning in. Says great idea for merging shows and conferences. Thanks, thanks, Dad. Appreciate you getting out of bed for this one. Dan from Tulsa. Overrated, underrated. There's 2 rules basically. I'm going to give you a topic, and you're going to tell me if it's either overrated or underrated.
Okay.
All right. So don't deviate from that. Those are the two acceptable
Okay.
answers. Okay, don't properly rate it or something like that. Okay, don't overthink it.
Okay.
And the second is I'm going to tell you if you're right or wrong.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'll tell you whether you're right about whether I'm right or wrong.
Exactly. It's preposterous premise. All right, let's get into it. Overrated or underrated? First topic, and we're gonna let Tammy go first.
Okay.
Legacy, overrated or underrated?
Gosh. Underrated?
Underrated.
I answer?
I like sowing the seeds of dissent here. Okay, so Tammy says overrated. Brandon.
She
Legacy.
said underrated, I think.
Oh, she said underrated.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to tell you you're wrong, but you're wrong. She said underrated.
There we go.
Unfortunately, my wife is a brilliant woman who is rarely wrong, but in this case, she is wrong. Legacy is overrated.
I thought we didn't get to extrapolate on her.
No, you can. That wasn't one of the rules. You actually can defend
Oh,
yourself.
Yeah.
that's what it
okay.
says.
Yeah.
Getting defensive is actually part of the game. So feel free to.
Why do
chime
I
in.
care when I'm dead what people think of me? I don't care. I care about other things. I'm not living my life for when I'm dead. I'm living my life for when I'm alive.
You know, that's interesting, but as a person who's creating a pretty robust legacy for themselves, I think you're full of it.
Yeah. I think legacy is a way to think about how do you want to leave the world better than you found it, right?
Yeah.
And it's not about you as a person getting accolades, but it's about making sure that you use the time you have here to do everything you can to make things better, whatever that means for you. So I think
Yeah.
it is underrated because it can be a real motivator to try to think through, how do I want to live this one life I have?
Yeah. I think your wife is right.
Yeah, I'm
I mean,
not
she's-
going to try
she
to
was-
argue with
You
that.
were right in the first place.
She is much more
brilliant.
eloquent
I
than
didn't
I am.
even know how to play.
People are saying underrated here. Sandra's saying, Tammy, it's similar to when you play Uno with your little kids and they make up the rules as you go.
Okay,
Yes, that's
good.
how Ben plays games.
that's how I
Sandra
was
knows.
feeling.
Sandra's a fan. Love you, Sandra. You are correct. All right. 1 point for Tammy. Next one up here. The Living. The Living. Overrated or underrated, Tammy?
Yes, Tammy.
This is absurd. It's okay. You're not crazy.
Underrated?
The Living are underrated. Brandon is underrated, overrated. The Living.
You're Mr. Alive
I think
guy.
it's got to be underrated, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Here's the interesting thing, though. I think this is something my wife and I talk about. I think that the living is underrated, but I also think focusing or remembering that we're all gonna die and no one gets out alive helps the living part.
Yeah.
And my wife just tends not to want to talk about the fact that we all are gonna die
I
someday.
love that perspective,
But
actually.
it is something.
you know
that
what? 1 point for both of you.
All right, I'll take
Yes.
I need to get
the
I need to
Living
get
are
off the board.
underrated. Yes. No, I love that whole thinking. I think about dying all the time.
Yeah.
I really do. And it inspires me every day to just cherish it, make the most of it,
Yep.
squeeze every ounce of value, kind of thing.
Yep.
But I also do it so people remember me and talk about me after I'm dead because I'm selfish like that. All right, awesome. Wow, Brandon's got a point. He's
Yeah.
coming for you. 2 points for Tammy. Next one up. The Kansas City Chiefs, overrated or underrated? Tammy, you have the honors.
Underrated?
Underrated. Super Bowl champs, underrated. Hot takes right here on Love and Relo. Brandon, would you like to disagree with your wife?
No, I don't know what I would disagree with my wife. So, my wife is a longtime Kansas City Chiefs fan, and we've had season tickets to the Chiefs for probably 23 years now. So it's a great time to be a Kansas City Chiefs season ticket. You get to see
the golden
amazing
years.
thing. Now, and I don't even know if Ben, you know this. The Chiefs are not my team. They're my wife's
They're
team that
my
I have
team.
adopted because my team is the team formerly known as the Washington Redskins.
Oh,
football
you're a
team,
Commanders fan, huh?
So I have to explain to my wife all the time when she gets mad when Pat Mahomes throws an interception. You've won 3 Super Bowls in the last 4 years. Settle down,
gosh.
calm down. When you're a Washington Commanders fan, the highlight of the last 25 years is that the owner had to sell the team.
Yeah,
And that's literally it.
That's legitimate, actually.
Yeah.
Shout out to Magic Johnson, watches the show occasionally. You got to come to. So shout out to Anandita Chaudhary out there in USI Law because they have a suite at the Commanders
nice.
Stadium, and I've been to 1 game so far this year. I'm going to go to 2 more actually next bookending Worldwide ERC. So if you're
Nice.
going to be in town, but their suite is right next to the visiting owner's suite.
Oh, nice.
So I'm a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, I know.
And easy. And so when I go to the game, Jerry Jones is sitting right next to me, and it's unbelievable. So next time you're in DC, let me know. Come for a Sunday,
Okay.
and we'll have you over
Okay.
to USI Law Suite. They're phenomenal people. I'm sure they'll make room for
Okay.
you.
And sometime you can come to a Chiefs game with us. We are not in a suite, but from our seats, we can see Taylor Swift in her seat.
Yes.
So if
Nice.
you want that, we can.
Nice.
We can
Right.
hook you
Swag
up with that.
surfing. I
Yeah.
like
Right.
it. Very
Yeah.
nice. You know what? The Chiefs are definitely, well, they can't possibly be overrated. They're so
yeah.
stinking good. They are
And they're
so
not
damn good.
underrated, but there were only 2 choices, and you said I had to
That's
pick
right,
one.
you do.
But I feel like
And
it's
she is
like
a rule follower.
yes, I am. And we have been to tickets when they were not good.
Yes, we saw a lot of bad
we have,
football.
I have sat way up high and gone,
Yeah.
well, this is dumb and whatever.
Why are we
but,
here freezing
yeah,
our tail off?
but I
Yep.
also am a Huskers fan, and the 90s were our glory years.
Oof.
And that's,
Tom
I lived through
Osborne.
that. And now I feel like here we are with the Chiefs in their glory years, and what a wonderful life.
Yeah. On that note, Chiefs
What a
are
one.
overrated. Pat Mahomes' stats look just like Dak Prescott's. All right, moving on next.
There's a few small differences.
Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? Overrated, underrated? Tammy.
No comment. Can I stay out
Nope.
of this little
you
rivalry?
Can't. Nope, you can't. You gotta hop in the fray.
I think overrated, Ben.
The Cowboys
They just
are
can't close the deal.
the definition of an overrated team. Because they have so many bandwagon fans, there's all this hype around them. They do well in the regular season, and they consistently choke in the postseason. Everyone knows what's going to happen. They tune in to watch them because it's a car wreck, and it happens over and over and over again. And I love to watch it. As a Washington fan, you can't take any joy in your own team being successful because they're not, but you can take joy in your rival's team crashing and burning every playoff series, and that is something that I get a little bit of enjoyment out of.
Well, that's lovely. That's a great
Here's how bad.
soliloquy.
And here's the thing about the Cowboys fans. Not only are they.
And here's the thing. I wasn't done.
Brandon's best friend is a Cowboys fan.
Well, I have a lot of friends that
Yeah.
are they're Cowboys friends. Shout
out to Chuck White.
Chuck White, I've made Chuck go to a few Washington games with me, and so we go. So I told my wife all these years we're a Chiefs fan. If the Chiefs ever make the Super Bowl, we're gonna go. Okay,
'Cause they were
I've
a
given up on
50-year
watching.
That
drought.
became expensive.
Yeah.
Yes, and so well, no, I said we'd go once the first time. So
Yeah.
the first time they made the Super Bowl, we went to Miami and we
Oh,
watched
nice.
them beat the San Francisco 49ers. But the whole game, and the Super Bowl's a weird thing because you got about a third of each team and then you got a third weird, corporate people. The whole game, there was a guy in full Cowboys jersey gear who live streamed himself watching the Super Bowl for 3 hours and talking about the Cowboys. That is the quintessential. It could have been you. I didn't really see the front of him, but that is the quintessential Cowboy fan right there. Okay, I better stop.
I'd watch that stream. Cowboys are overrated. You're both correct.
You had a credibility issue if you said anything else.
No, I
there.
mean, they really are, and they're so disappointing.
That's funny.
I have so many issues with my Cowboys. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I've lost count. I don't know what the score is. Next one up. Norfolk. Overrated, underrated. Tammy,
Ooh, underrated.
Brandon.
Yeah. If we're talking North Fork, not Norfolk.
I think we
Virginia.
are. Did I
Okay.
say it right?
There's no-
Norfolk?
Nebraska.
Yeah, there's no state on there, so I just want to make sure. There's some confusion
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. Norfolk, the Fork, as we like to call it,
Oh, we
is
do not.
vastly
The
Fork, the Fork.
underrated.
No one calls it that.
That's what we call it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's underrated.
Underrated.
It's a great community. We have great people here, and we're blessed to be here.
Well, it's definitely not overrated.
No.
So it's
You're
got to
not-
be
if it's not-
underrated. I'd never heard of it until
If it's
I
not
heard it
rated,
Daycos.
it can't be
Yes,
overrated.
it is not. Yes. No, I actually like it. We went to downtown. I thought it was awesome. It's conspicuously absent is a large fork sculpture.
Yeah.
But I
Working
know
on it.
that's coming.
We do have a
And,
Fork Fest.
yeah.
Yeah, Fork
there's
Fest
that.
is this weekend, man, if you
That's-
want to stick around.
I might come back. No, it's a lovely
Yeah.
town, and Daycos I think is the cherry on top here. Big fan of everything I found so far, and actually Nebraska as a whole, I'm digging it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's 4 points,
For me.
5 points for Tammy and 4 points for Brandon. Is it?
I feel like I'm
Wow, nice
undefeated.
job,
Thank
nice
you.
job. Wow, take that one home. All right, awesome. This has been a lot of fun. Hit that like button, get in the comments, give some shout outs there. Signing off though, before we go, I want to give you the opportunity maybe for a final thought, Tammy. Would you want to just share something with us? Oh, by the way, can we just
yeah.
plug this?
Sure.
Tell us about this right
Yeah.
here. I don't know if y'all can see that right there or
Yep.
not.
Yeah, right.
So part of the work we are doing and our Daycos story we have captured in this little book
What's it
called
called?
Business for Good, the Daycos story, and it talks about a little bit about how we do business with purpose, how other companies can consider starting down that path, what some of our core tenets are and why those are really important to the work. So if you want to learn more about Daycos, how to do business with purpose, maybe you're considering taking some steps in that journey, I think it's a great way to read a story about what we're doing and hopefully learn something from that resonates with you. So we have those here and we'd be happy to,
Yep. Can I
send them
put one
out.
up here in the foreground maybe, and maybe people can actually see it.
There you go.
Business for
Yeah.
Good, the
Yeah.
book there.
Yeah, and we are, my wife will be modest here, but this is part of a larger book she wrote called Philanthropy for All. And this was one chapter when we pulled it out in this. But we are offering this to anybody who's interested in learning more about it for the low, low price of free. So
Free.
if you...
They love shipping paper, people. Just let them know where to send it, okay?
We are a paper company. You send me an email at bday@daycos.com. Tell me where you want it sent to, how many books you want, and we'll get them out because we're really just trying to spread the word. We really believe in kind of the way that we run the business is right for our business. We hope it inspires other people to figure out what about it might be something they could do, not follow the Daycos model, but be inspired to figure out what the model is for their own company because it's I think it's good for the bottom line, and it's a super fun way to run a business. Not the easiest way, but it's a fun way. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the other book as well, the larger
Yeah.
book is called again, do we have a copy
Philanthropy
of it?
for All.
Philanthropy of
Philanthropy
All.
for all.
Sorry.
Okay.
Weird.
You can buy that on
reaching down.
Amazon. I'm not
So
giving
this we're
that
not
away.
sending. This is apparently more expensive.
Yes.
No.
We're not sending this, but the Daycos business for Good.
Yep.
The Daycos story is free. This you got to buy,
Go to Amazon.
and this is but is that contained
Brandon
in
told
here?
me I have to
Yes.
sell them.
Yes, that is. This is a chapter out of this book with
this
one
is
very
nice.
important addition.
The foreword by
The
Brandon
foreward
Day
was written by Brandon Day to that book.
to the business.
Okay.
So you won't get that if you buy this book. It's only in
And the
that.
publisher just wouldn't allow that.
No,
That's right.
they said who?
No. So Philanthropy
Nepotism.
for All does have a lot of the Daycos tenets in it because it's about how can every person do something because we all have something to offer. And in fact, like that's the only way I believe things get better in the world is that we all take what we can do right where we're at and apply that in our communities, whatever those mean to us, if it's our town, our company, our school, our church, whatever. Like, it's just helping people really practically think through what do I have to give and how do I get started in that space.
And talk about getting
So-
started. I mean, this is really cool because there's some actionable like kind of worksheets toward the end here.
Yep.
You got sample reports you can start, 6-month reports, final reports, youth philanthropy. That's some really cool stuff in here.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's meant to be
really nice.
easy to read, easy to use, and then, it's kind of our philosophy here, even around how do you do business with good. We'll share anything and everything we
Yep.
do. We don't have secrets here. And in fact, the biggest win for me is that somebody else finds something that we've done or, that they can take forward and use for themselves or can be inspired by to do their own thing. And so I'm happy to share whatever we have or talk to anybody who has a curiosity about that.
Yep.
Do you ever do speaking engagements around this?
I do.
Yeah. So maybe at like an industry conference or something like that, we can. I can
Yeah.
book you maybe
Sure,
at
you
some
bet.
to talk about
Yep.
this.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Very
Yeah,
cool.
we love. And the other thing I'd say is
cool.
Reach out anytime. Like you could probably tell, we love to talk about this stuff. It's something that's fun for us, and we love to help other businesses figure out what makes sense to them. So if
Yeah.
you have any questions or anything, always feel free to reach out.
Very cool.
Absolutely.
Teresa Pope says, "What a delightful and informative interview. Thank you all for a great show. Thanks everybody for being here. Appreciate you joining me here at Daycos HQ in Norfolk, Nebraska, with Tammy Day and Brandon Day. This has been a lot of fun, y'all. I've learned a lot. I've been inspired to maybe try a little harder to focus on my impact and the way that we do things at Glomo, which is super cool. It's a real honor to be here with y'all.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Hey, everybody, stay tuned for tomorrow. We're going to be at NEI Global at their global partner, their GPA Summit in Omaha, 2 hours south of here. And we'll be there, so stay tuned. Actually, I'm sorry, not tomorrow. I forgot what day it is. Thursday. Don't listen to me. Thursday, it's on the LinkedIn. Thursday, same time, same channel. We will see y'all then. Thanks, everybody. Take care.